Hi guys, and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. This is going to be quite a rapid fire short episode because we're going to go on a long road trip tomorrow, and of course I still have to do all the packing. We will be driving up all along the Queensland coast up to far north tropical Queensland, where it's going to be hopefully nice and warm and sunny with a lot of birds. In last week's video I said I was looking at buying a Mavic 3, but I've actually decided against buying that drone for now, and I'm going to stick with my Mavic 2 Pro. Would have been nice to have the nicer image quality, but something is kind of holding me back when it comes to that drone. It just feels expensive and a little bit not so well thought out. The latest firmware updates where you can now use manual settings on that top zoom camera seems to be a little bit of an improvement, but overall I'm not yet quite sure. So I might get it down the track, but for now I'm not going to buy it for this trip. I also don't really have any updates on my RF 600mm lens yet, although it seems like it's more of a camera and lens issue, because I have a friend who can easily replicate the same problems that I have with his RF 600 and his R5. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'll keep you updated, and hopefully there will be a resolution to that at some point. The last few days I've also been frantically filming my R3 review and the R3 versus the R5 video. Hopefully I will be able to edit those up soon and share with you, because there's some surprising results in there for sure. I can give you a little spoiler though, both cameras actually take very nice images. Talking about images, if you want to learn all about image editing and make your life a lot easier when it comes to editing, I would recommend that you check out my Pro Sets and Masterclass down there in the description. My Pro Sets enable you with just one click to get great colors and a great starting point when it comes to transforming your RAW files. And in my Masterclass, I teach you step by step everything you need to know about Photoshop to make your own images stand out and make them look great. So if that's of interest to you, make sure to check out the links down there. It's actually been pretty quiet in the news and rumors world this week. Sony is releasing a new firmware for the A1 and the A7S3. The A1 is mainly getting a few new video features and new functions, which is great. And the A7S3 is also getting a few new video features. And also, what might be more interesting is that it will get improvements to the eye tracking. I've also been reading on Nikon rumors that there's a problem with the Nikon Z9 and the 100 to 400mm lens in AFC mode, the continuous tracking mode. Apparently Nikon is aware of that problem now and will fix that with a firmware update down the track. I've used the Z9 at 100 to 400. I didn't really notice anything too crazy. Have you? If you have that set up, let me know in the comments. When it comes to the Z9, we see them pop up here and there. Amazon, for instance, had a few in stock, but they sold out very quickly, so they're still in high demand. And if you ordered at B&H Photo Video, for instance, they are now shipping orders that were made in December of 2021. So if you recently ordered there, it's still going to be a long wait. And again, my recommendation for you would be to call a few smaller shops, because it's very likely one of them will have a camera or can get one for you. Speaking about things that are hard to get, has any one of you gotten the new 800 PF lens yet? A friend of mine ordered it, but he hasn't heard anything about it. He's the first on the list on his camera store, but there's been no word about it, and they have no idea when they might be getting one. I've actually seen two of the 800 PF lenses at the Bird Live photography conference, and they're very nice and light in your hand. I was quite impressed. I would love to try one out in the field, but thus far, it seems like they're very hard to come by, and they're only delivering very, very small numbers. Speaking about Nikon, it seems like we will be seeing a Z30 camera very soon, an entry-level APS-C camera with probably around 30 megapixels. And another rumor says that Nikon is abandoning basically all sensors below 30 megapixels. I think that's quite an interesting comment if that's true, because I think for some cameras, especially APS-C cameras, some lower megapixel sensors could actually make sense because they have less noise. But all in all, I think 30 megapixel is kind of a sweet spot for many as well. So I think if there's more cameras around that 30 megapixel mark, that will be very good. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Alongside the Z30, they will also announce that f4.5 400mm lens. Still a lens that I personally find quite odd, but maybe once it's released and we can see it in the field, it makes more sense. But at this stage, I feel like there could have been other lenses that would have been more urgent to release than that lens, but what do I know in the end? There have also been a few rumors that Nikon will be releasing a second camera other than a Z30 this year. So may that be the Z8, kind of a Z9 in a smaller body, maybe with a few less specs? It could be, but at the same time, it doesn't really make sense to me because Nikon is still struggling to fulfill all the orders for the Z9. So why would they already be releasing a camera that's kind of cannibalizing the Z9 when they still struggle to fulfill the orders, and whenever a Z9 pops up, it gets sold really quickly? So I think a Z8, which basically would be Z9 in a smaller body, makes more sense a little bit later down the track once the sales of the Z9 kind of start to slow down. But what do you guys think? I know a lot of you would definitely like to see like a Z8 kind of in the mold of a D850. So the other option then could be that we're going to see like a Z6 III or Z7 III. Does that make sense for you? And what would be the specs you want to see in those cameras? Maybe a 30 megapixel full frame sensor in that Z6 III. I know the main upgrade we need would be the autofocus in both of these cameras. I know people have been talking about firmware updates for the Z6 II and the Z7 II, but at this stage, I don't really think it's likely it's going to happen, and there won't be any major improvement when it comes to the AF performance in those cameras. What I really think is missing in a Nikon lineup at the moment is a body that you can have as a second body if you have a Z9 as your first body. At the moment, if you're a pro shooter or someone like me who needs a few cameras, in the Nikon lineup, your only option would basically be to buy 2 or 3 Z9s, and then it gets quite expensive, and they're also quite heavy and large. So it basically fills up a whole backpack if you have 3 Z9 cameras. So a smaller camera that still has good specs and especially good autofocus, similar to what's in the Z9, I think would be a very welcome addition to the Nikon lineup. Is that something you agree with? Because I really think it would be hard as a Nikon shooter to have a second body, because if you have a Z9, you don't really want to have a Z6 II or Z7 II as your second body, because the difference between the two cameras is just so large. On the Canon front, it has also slowed down a lot after the much discussed R10 and R7 release recently. So hopefully it won't be too long until I get my hands on my R7 and I can give you a full field review, because I think it will be very interesting for all of us to see how those cameras perform. It does seem, however, that Canon is still working on a 100 megapixel plus camera, and that may come this year or next year. While there were some rumors that an R1 would have 100 megapixels, I think that's extremely unlikely. What's more likely is that there would be like an R5-like camera with a 100 megapixel sensor. And while I think that could be interesting, I also think there would be a lot of issues with such a large sensor, like file size, speed of the camera, and just working on the files. And also, I don't know if many lenses have the ability to actually dissolve that many megapixels. What do you think? Would a 100 megapixel camera interest you, or is that just something that seems like a gimmick and not really usable? I guess ultimately it also depends on what you're shooting. For landscapes, or if you don't need high frame rates, that might be a great camera, but for birds or action, it's probably not really what you want. Personally, I really wish Canon will release the R1 as soon as possible. An R3 body with that great autofocus, the great features, the great ergonomics, and 45 or more megapixels. Because to me, that's really what's missing currently in the Canon lineup. There's the R5 that has beautiful 45 megapixel files, but it overheats a lot, and overall it has given me a bunch of issues in the field lately. So while that camera is really nice, I definitely would want to have something a bit more reliable. And then there's the R3, which is a fantastic camera, but I just don't get super excited about the 24 megapixels. So an R1 with 45 plus megapixels and that fantastic R3 body is really something that I would love to see rather sooner than later. I hope you guys enjoyed this rapid fire early bird photo news. I'm gonna have to pack now and actually edit this video so I can post it tonight. And from you, I would love to hear all your thoughts down there in the comments. Please give me a thumbs up for this video, that really helps me with the algorithm. And make sure to subscribe to the channel down there, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye guys.